Here's a statement that was released by the students on the inside. I'll read the statement. Number one, stopping of the construction of the gym. Number two, dropping of the charges against all persons involved in demonstrations against the gym. Number three, breaking of all faculty and administrative ties with IDA. Number four, general amnesty for all the students involved. When the university has stopped construction of the gym and granted an amnesty, we will consider the questions of negotiation with the university. We are prepared to remain indefinitely until these conditions are met. The black students of Columbia University, joined by a few members of the black community, have been in Hamilton Hall for 56 hours, more than that now.
He certainly wanted the university to sever its ties with the Institute for Defense Analysis, which had been involved in the war, which almost everyone was opposed to. And there was a sense that something ought to be done at the university in the gym. And so initially there was a steering committee that was a multiracial steering committee set up across the spectrum to try to develop these demands and figure out strategy.
For one thing, I remember that there were no beds or anything. So spending the night, even the first night, there was a lot of difficulty. I mean, people laid down coats or jackets, and you put your head on a jacket and you were on the floor, and you know, some people weren't so comfortable with that.
The men all slept in one room and the women all slept in the other room, because there was, as far as I remember, there wasn't much time for socializing. We were really worried about our lives. Because would the police be here the next day? Would the police be here with dogs, with guns, with billy clubs? We really were concerned about our lives.
I have to say that we ate better during that strike because of the food that was brought in by the Harlem community than we did eating in the Columbia facilities. They really supported us. They appreciated that we were putting our careers on the line. And that was about the only group at that time, other than our parents, that realized that we were standing up for that community. And so I really still thank the Harlem community for the support that they gave during that time.
This is one of the offices where classrooms were, and we could speak, the leaders would speak with us about what we were trying to do, because a lot of people weren't from New York. They had no idea about Harlem.
And for the remainder, the week or so of the takeover, the Students Afro-American Society commandeered the building, cleaned up the building, brought order to the order and structure to the comings and going ons in the building. And what happened was a number of supporters from Harlem came up, brought food. There was a group of African students came and demonstrated and sat on the outside of the building, graduate students largely, in support of the students on the inside.
One of the things I really liked about the occupation was, well, when SDS went to Low Library, they went into President Grayson Kirk's files, they rummaged through, there was some vandalism that went on. We did not do that in Hamilton Hall. As a matter of fact, we quickly set up groups who were responsible for keeping Hamilton Hall clean. And I remember, you know, mopping down the hallways where I had classes. And you know, it was a point of pride that this was our building at that point. It was Malcolm X Hall, and we were going to take care of it, and we did. I don't think that was one of the facts that was really talked about in the media afterwards. You know, the focus was on the damage that had been done in Low Library.
The black students did not vandalize Hamilton Hall. The black students were not interested in taking anybody hostage. In fact, the fact that when we took over Hamilton Hall and the dean was in his office, we had to think very carefully, because we didn't tell him to stay in that office. We were not holding him hostage, and we had to think of the right words. We could not say we are releasing you because we did not, hold them. And so we said, aren't you all hungry? don't you want to walk across campus and get something to eat and take a break? And they took that as a sign that they were to leave. But we had to be very careful because we knew somebody might take, we are releasing you as proof that we were holding them and charge us with, abduction or with hostage taking.
The women involved, I mean, certainly that, get down with the man's role and the woman's role, and you women you gotta support your man, and that kind of thinking was so prevalent then,
I was one of those who, I guess, helped, follow out the instructions of the dictators, the guys in charge. I had been recording secretary of one of the groups, and so I did get to be on several meetings, and I did get to help, disseminate whatever supplies and things came in, and not that I made any decisions, but that I did carry out plans.
Some of the men would have preferred that the women not be there because we felt it was going to be dangerous. We felt that we were probably going to be beaten and arrested, not just arrested. But they were very strong. In fact, I have to say they were tremendously strong because we did not let anything become divisive. And the women did not say something out of that spirit of unity and not letting any side issue cause a division. Because they were there, we could not have done it without the support and the intellectual contribution of the women that were there.
That area is, there is a maze, a whole network of tunnels. The police came, I guess, maybe they felt they had to deal with us differently because we were black, and so they came through, the cops came through the tunnels.
We then set ourselves up in the main hallway with the women in one line and the men on either side of them. We had buckets of water and towels so that if tear gas, we would have something to cover, our mouth, eyes, and, our nose. And we told them that they should only come through that front door. And they came to the front door, and at the same time, some police figured they would come in through the basement. And so when we saw them coming through, because we have lookouts at all entrances, when we saw them trying to come into the basement, we ran downstairs and we took the fire hose and we uncorked it and put the high pressure hose on the police to keep them from coming in that door.
But they let us out through the tunnels, and they had paddy wagons in the back on Amsterdam, and they herded us in and took us quietly away.
And we made them aware that we had lawyers, that we would sue them till the cows come home if any of the students in there were hurt. We also made it clear to them that we would not leave unless arrested, but we would not resist arrest. They did not need to come in there with tear gas or anything else. All they had to do was announce you were under arrest and we would leave. But we would not leave unless arrested.
And they drove us to downtown all the way to the Tombs. And we spent the night in the Tombs. Must have been about maybe 20, 25, 30 people in one cell. There was no place, you had to sit on the cold floor. I remember in the morning they threw us some Wonder Bread and sliced bologna sandwiches, Come on. Anyway, it seemed like by midday, the next day, we had to be arraigned, and we were charged with criminal trespassing.
Both the city of New York and the university both decided that building a gym with a back door for the community, for the Harlem community, was a bad idea. And part of the negotiations was that the charges would be dropped and no one would be expelled. And so the university agreed to that. And so, as far as we were concerned, there was a successful conclusion to the protest.
When I came out of that building and read those stories in the so-called New York Times, and there was hardly any mention that there had been anybody in a Hamilton Hall. That became, I had already known about that, but it became clear to me. And I gotta say, American media hasn't changed since then, really, except to the extent that it's forced.
The problem is that to tell that story is to fly in the face of white supremacy. That is. I'm not saying it was conscious distortion entirely, but you're talking about an elite university. Before the 40s, Columbia was Harvard. Even then, Columbia was among the elite universities in the country. So how do you reconcile the notion that in this huge demonstration involving all these kids who are at this elite university, that the pivotal group, I mean, to be drugged, because that's the story, nobody wants to hear that. If black students are at the heart of this, it would fly in the face of all the orthodoxies in this society about our inferiority, our inability to organize,
lack of power,
our preference for shooting crap and smoking dope over politics.
Our demands are very simple, our demands are very easy, and we will not begin eating again until these demands are met, or we are in the hospital. And so our very health and life are in the hands of this community and on the hands of these issues that Columbia University support its Center for Ethnic Studies, that Columbia University update its core curriculum to represent the experiences and histories and stories of people of color and people around the world.